This is Samantha Paradine. Oh. Hi guys, this is Samantha Paradina, and I'm just going about my day, reading all the Word and listening to videos. Donald Trump was elected president. Yay. And I guess it's November 10th, 2016. And I'm just thinking about the garden. And I learned so much from it, and things I didn't mention in that other video. Gosh, my teeth look really bad. One thing was that my brother planted all these tomato plants, and they were really cool. They grew huge. In the middle of winter, we had all these tomato plants, which was freaking awesome. But then this jungle of tomatoes was left to grow and grow and grow, and the bigger it got, the more the tomatoes were like, they didn't taste good, and I don't know, they just seemed a little rotten. Like, we weren't tending it properly after a while, and it went wild. But he would also do a new plot of tomatoes. And I think when you're doing a garden in your yard, let the tomato grow for like a season, you know, like a couple months, so it comes to maturity and get that crop of fruit. You don't necessarily have to get the next one and the next one. Like, it's okay. You have seeds. Replant. Plant, like, after a month, if you want to keep it going, if you have a long growing season, you know, start new seedlings or seeds a month after you did the other ones, or 3 months, and then you can alternate the garden plots of always having tomatoes. Or say you're doing container gardening on a patio, do a large barrel of tomato plants or just a pot of tomato plant. But then in a month or two, start another seedling. So after these tomatoes have come to maturity, and then the plant's getting too old, then you can just let that one go away and the new one will be coming to fruition. So it's all, I think they taste better on a fresh plant instead of like a plant that's been there for 6 months. They start to taste different. And maybe that's just my experience from the greenhouse getting overheated and stuff. It got too hot in there. But I think the fresh plant and the fresh produce, the first abundance that comes from the plant, is the best. And I also wanted to talk about the composting, because, and with the tomato plants, he planted them deeper. Like, he buried the first couple leaves of seedlings, and he mounded up dirt around the stalk. So he mounded it up, not a lot, but a little. Not so much that the water would run away from the roots of the plant, just a little mound, because it strengthened that tomato stalk, and that helped it a lot. But you want the soil fluffy and loose, you want to work in organic material, and whatever plant you have, read the directions. It'll tell you what the soil needs amended to be more acidic or less acidic, or a pH, and you measure the soil and you add your little lime or whatever needs to be added to the soil. But the compost pile is so cool. You could take an area like 4 by 6, and you could take a bunch of, you go around and collect garbage if you have a pickup truck or a wheelbarrow. Get like a dozen bags of leaves and bags of grass clippings. So you have green organic material, brown organic material. You want to have kitchen scraps. You save them up in a jar that's sealed so you don't get flies. And like periodically blenderize it with water and pour it in a bucket outside. Use those 5-gallon buckets. So then if you want to do it all at once, you can do it a whole bunch of different ways. Some people take, you know, large leaves and large plants, and they just pile it all and leave it for a couple years and then come back and stir it all up and you've got good dirt. If you want to do something quicker, you can do very small, but that's kind of tedious. I like the medium size where you got a 4 by 6 plot. My brother put a fence around it, and then he filled it up like layers of a lasagna. So you do a layer of brown leaves, and then you do a layer of green leaves, and then you sprinkle some lime on that, and then you pour a sprinkling of the organic matter, like carrots blenderized and celery butts, you know, and kitchen scraps, vegetables, and crushed eggshells, blenderize it with some water. So it's already helping the decomposition process. If you want it to go quicker, you could throw out the vegetable scraps whole, but if you blenderize it, it goes a lot faster. So you do. And I'm not saying it's in any particular order. I just know it's those 4 components. A brown layer, a green layer, sprinkle some lime, not too much, but sprinkle some organic garden lime, and then sprinkle on blenderized or pureed, however you want to say it, kitchen scraps of vegetables and eggshells. But you don't want exotic things like coffee grinds or tea bags or weirds like that's for if you're growing coffee. and that would be in the mountains somewhere or wherever you're living. Put kitchen scraps that are like the foods you want to grow. So if you want to grow vegetables you would use in your kitchen, you can use the carrots and celery and onions. And he said don't use citrus either, because it changes the acidity, and don't use pine needles. You can't really control the acidity that way. It gets too much. So you can always add that later in a little bit with compost material if you needed some acidity. So green layer, brown layer, sprinkle some garden lime, and sprinkle the vegetables blenderized with some water. And then just keep repeating the layers. It's kind of fun to do that. And if you let that sit there for a couple months, you can turn it over with a pitchfork and like just say move the whole pile over next to it. If you have land to do that, it's not that big of a deal. But it's more worth it to do more than just a little bit. And you turn it over with a pitchfork, and as you're turning it over to a new spot, you can add in some more, or you can just turn it over and let it stay like that and build it up as much as stuff that you have, a few feet high or whatever, and it will cook. And 3, 6, 9, after 1 year, you will have a lot of cubic feet of really good garden dirt, and you can fill in holes in your yard. You can make garden beds. You can just sprinkle it around your yard to supplement your soil. It's just dirt in the store is $3 for a little tiny bag, and you'd have tons of it, good, healthy, organic, decomposed material. And it's really not that hard. But I think that helped. Oh, and he watered it down the first time. I watered it once after, and I just didn't know to stop, and I watered it so much I saturated it. He said I turned off the oven. So I watched him water it, and I wasn't realizing the technicalities of it and how long and how much. So he just watered it down at first, sprinkled some, and then it'll get rained on and stuff. But you don't want to water it too much, because then it makes the cooking in there. The stuff starts to decompose and makes heat down inside this pile of lasagna of dirt and grass. So that's pretty cool, doing your own homemade compost if you can do that. And doing fresh plants. It's almost like hoarding, when you want to just hold on to that. It's okay, let it go. Stuff grows and multiplies so much. Just start over. And if you can't do a large plot, like I'm going to start again in another year and maybe do some container gardening, or just do a little small garden plot. Just 1 tomato plant, 1 pepper plant, a little bit of carrots and some broccoli, like what I can handle. But that little bit of organic stuff, you just, you water it once a day with the hose. You can go out there and have some quiet time for 15 minutes, or you put on a timer on a hose, where it doesn't have to be such a big ordeal to take so much out of your life. Fit it into your life how you can. Even little herbs on your windowsill, or a few pots on your patio. You'll really enjoy having the fresh organic herbs and vegetables. I really did enjoy that. So I'm trying to think anything else I learned that you wouldn't necessarily hear people talk about. Having that really good dirt, letting the plant do its normal cycle, and then get a couple harvests out of it. You'll get tomatoes at first, and it'll keep making. But the ones that are indeterminate, they just grow forever, not the bush ones. They'll just keep going and going and going. And I think the further they get away from the root, the less they're that niceness as the first batches of tomatoes. So start a new plant and be clean about it. Everything is better when it's clean and organized. So I guess that's it. Okay. Bye.